and we're going to continue to keep our focus on the fury in the Gulf, viewers, because the cost of war is only going up as it enters the sixth day. Billions of dollars have been spent and there's no clear end in sight. As casualties mount and global trade is disrupted by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, Iran continues targeted strikes across the Arab world, hampering the civilian and energy infrastructure. The United States has escalated its campaign, deploying advanced weaponry, including the F-35C fighter jets and waves of Tomahawk missiles in strikes that have severely weakened Iran's naval capability. Meanwhile, surging oil prices are stoking global economic anxiety, with Bharat urgently exploring alternative energy routes to shield its economy from further fallout. Where we're going across straight to Benny Gantz. He's member of former Deputy Prime Minister and also Defense Minister of Israel, member of the Knesset. Benny, thank you so much for your time. It's entered the sixth day. Tel Aviv is taking a pounding. The Iranians are claiming that Khorram Sheher 4 has penetrated a 7-layer defense and also landed at the Ben Gurion airport. How would you look at the state of war right now?
Thank you for having me. And first and foremost, I would like to say this is a very important campaign led by the United States for global interest, for American interest, for regional interest, and from our perspective as Israelis, obviously the threat to the state of Israel. We are only on the sixth day of this campaign, and we have to remember that if you want to create a meaningful change that eventually will minimize terrorist activities around the region and around the world and change the way Iran behaved so far, it's not going to be a hike in the park. It's going to take some time, and unfortunately, you have ups and downs. So far, I think it's going very well, but I'm sure we will face challenges down the road. But we must remember what is the overall, I would say, strategic goal. I think we need to see a change within the Iranian regime. I think the people of Iran deserve to have more liberty. I think the region should suffer less from instabilities that were promoted by the Iranians, and I think the world needs to see less terror all over the place as a result of Iranian activities. So far, it's going well, but there's still much to do.
Is there clarity in the strategic goal? You're saying regime change in Iran, but the Americans seem to be shifting the goalpost every hour. So is there clarity? What's the end game here?
Oh, I think that everybody would like to see something else in Iran. Now, this is obviously a very complicated, I would say, strategic goal, honestly speaking. It is for the Iranian to decide what kind of regime they want to have there and what kind of regime they are banding themselves to. I think we should try and create the conditions while taking down Iran's strategic and terror capabilities as much as we can. And we have to assess it as the time goes by to see day by day what's happening and how it's moving forward. So far, as I said, I think it's going well, but once again, this is war. This is not a hike in the park. It's going to be very complicated.
Well, the clarity that it's not a hike in the park is there, but the Strait of Hormuz remains a very, it's the jugular that Iran is holding on to, if I may say that. Is there any plan to free the Strait of Hormuz? Because nations are going to get very anxious if this continues.
Yes, I understand that, and I believe President Trump, with his global leadership, understand this importance. I know that the Americans have acted against the Iranian fleet, and I'm sure that everybody wants to see the Strait of Hormuz open, and of course the Red Sea itself and other places, because the Iranians, with their proxies, actually economically acted against the entire free commerce and free of maritime navigation, and we know it for a long time. But this is very important for everybody to understand.
But you would
let us not measure, with your permission, let us not measure the current difficulties. We have to look at the future, at the long future. And if we can create a better, stable, free of terrorism activities and free of threat as Iran posed so far for the next decades, then what's a week or two should be accounted for.
Right. But Benny, you're far more wiser in statecraft than my understanding. As former Deputy Prime Minister of Israel, you would understand when a nation is attacked from an outsider, everybody forgets local politics and they tend to unite under the flag. Now, in Iran again, in January, there was a huge uprising, but there was no attack or there was no weakening of the IRGC and its militia. That protest was put down by brute force. Estimated numbers of more than 30,000 people being shot dead. Now when Israel and US enter Iran, there seems to be a similar sentiment of an entire nation of people coming together under the flag against an outside invader. How is a regime change going to happen in a scenario like this?
No, once again, as we said before, we can take care of the regime leadership. We can take care of strategic capabilities. We can try and intercept the routes between Iran and its proxies around the region. But obviously, there is a space for the Iranian people themselves to decide how is it that they want to run their life, and therefore I'm saying this is the direction, but we'll have to see how it evolves, definitely.
Do you agree that eventually there may have to be boots on ground, direct or indirect?
No, this is not, it depends how you look at it. And when everybody says boots on the ground, so they are looking for thousands of troops running all over the place. We should exclude nothing. We should operate the way we think we can and should. And I would exclude nothing, but there's no specific that I can talk about right now.
How long do you see this conflict running?
I suggest that we will take it day by day now, week by week, see where we're going and reassess it. It's very hard to tell. I think lots of achievement already have been achieved. And the Iranians, whoever gets to stay there, understands that when the United States decides to act, nobody should play with it. And we as Israelis took care of ourselves, and we took care of our partnership with the United States, and I think we stayed with high level of credibility in this partnership between us. And I think it will create a base for future deterrence as well. But once again, what's more important that everybody understand that, look, Prime Minister Modi was here just 10 days ago or so. We signed 16 different economical and other zone of operation agreements between our two countries.
Right.
And just imagine yourself how much could we all achieve if Iran would be just Iran and not trying to become a regional superpower that involves and destabilizing so many places around the region specifically, but around the world as well, Venezuela, Ukraine, and other places as well. India have suffered from terrorism activities before. You know what is it for them? You know what is it for you guys to suffer terrorism? Once again, I think we have to change this reality this way or another, and I suggest to have determination in one hand and to reassess all the time where are we on this track, and eventually I think we can achieve a lot.
My final question, would you concur if I say, even if this war drags on for a few weeks, the Strait of Hormuz will have to be freed in 15 days for other nations to not intervene and say put a stop to this? Because if the world is hurting, India is hurting, China is hurting, the Gulf nations are hurting, all of them, there is an oil crunch, an energy crisis that allows Russia to wade in.
I understand that, and I think the world must reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and we have to come up, when I'm saying we, I mean the world, with alternative energy resources for the time being until we solve it. But once again, let us change the situation, because if we won't change the situation, whatever we have now, we will see it again in future time again.
Right. Benny Stans, thank you for speaking with us. Let's quickly go across to our other guest, Tom Cooper, military analyst, military historian, with us in the studio. Sanjay Kumar Verma, former diplomat, is with us. Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma ji, thank you. Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon with us, former GOC 15 Corps of the Indian Army. And we have Professor Peter Kuznick, author and professor of history, American University. My namaste to everybody. Thank you for your time. Plenty of developments that are happening. Let's first ask Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon. Do you believe that this is the jugular that Iran is holding on to, the Strait of Hormuz? And the sooner this is freed, the sooner the passage is created for commerce to happen again, the faster the Iranian stranglehold and this war perhaps will dissipate.
Good evening, Anand, and good evening to fellow panelists and all our viewers. Yes, from day one, Iran started with the premise that if we will hit the Gulf countries and if we can block the traffic in and out of Strait of Hormuz, thereby choking the world of crude oil and the energy needs, then the world will come down to say, finish it off and let's talk.
Right.
And Iran continues to be holding that premise. And I think with every passing day, the effect on the world, effect on the stock markets, effect on the prices, crude oil prices, and the that refined petroleum prices and the LNG will start showing. And when the smaller countries who do not hold very big reserves, once they start choking, the pressure will mount on USA and Israel to finish this off early, and negotiations must start.
Right. Now, let's just quickly do a deep dive on how Iran is structured, this entire defense mechanism, and why the Iranians have quietly gone or quickly gone, swiftly gone into guerrilla mode, and how efficiently can they even communicate and function analog. Let's try and understand this. These are the first crucial inputs that are coming in from top intelligence sources on the contingency plans that have been put in place by the Iranian regime in case of a leadership crisis. And we've been talking about this from day one, but we're just putting pen to paper and breaking it down for our viewers. We've seen that Iran has been able to operate and fight back despite the elimination of the Khamenei and its top leadership. Top intelligence sources are saying that that was all part of the plan. The IRGC remains the driving force for the regime continuity inside Iran amid US-Israeli strikes. Ayatollah Khamenei implemented a contingency plan focused on the regime's survival. So while one side is saying finish the regime, the other one is saying regime continuancy. Now, Khamenei prepared multi-layered succession systems for military and government leadership. They had gamed this from the Iraq war. That's something which Tom Cooper has also said here multiple times. Khamenei elevated loyalists like Ali Largiani for crisis and wartime management. Ali Largiani is being tasked with ensuring clerical continuity with the backing of the IRGC itself. The IRGC currently handling wartime decisions, bypassing full constitutional processes. The Khamenei's contingency plan includes full IRGC takeover if hostilities escalate. That means the IRGC is empowered to take over all of Iran, even and overrule the supreme leader or the religious clerical heads also if it is required. IRGC's direct command includes military responses, internal crackdowns and proxy activation, and that's the reason why you're seeing so much of pounding in Tehran and on the IRGC top leadership and its headquarters. Now, Tom Cooper, is this assessment fair, and do you believe this is perhaps going to be the biggest challenge to break down the IRGC if they really want a regime change?
I mean, this cannot be more to the point. It is rounded up the picture and confirming everything, all the bits and pieces I've got to hear over the years. What is particularly important here is not only that the IRGC is a driving force for the regime, but it's assuming control or responsibility for everything. This means also the regular armed forces, which are bigger than the IRGC.
Right.
For the army, for whatever is left of the Air Force, but foremost for whatever is left of the Islamic Republic of Iran Air Defense Force. Right. Because IRGC has its own air defenses in its own integrated air defense system, and the Air Defense Force has its own air defenses, own weaponry and own integrated air defense system. Theoretically, they are integrated due to airstrikes probably now weakened in this regards. But this is adding plenty of weaponry to the IRGC. Foremost, it enables it to react quickly in the case of any kind of boots on the ground, especially such like, let's say, US Special Forces combined with Kurds or whomever else the Americans might come to the idea to bring it to Iran. So IRGC is now clearly in charge of everything that is happening in the country.
Right.
And it is certainly also so that its local commanders have received a set of prepared orders for what to do in case of what kind of emergencies.
So in this case, Peter Kuznick, Ambassador, I'll come to you in a bit. Do you think the Iranians have gamed this far better than the US and the Israelis, despite their ability to gather intelligence? This is just pure instinct to survive, and they've gamed it better. Peter?
If the government survives, then it wins. It's just pretty straightforward. For the U.S. and Israel to win, they've got to change the government there. Trump can always claim a victory, no matter what happened, but it's very, very hard, almost impossible, to force regime change by a bombing campaign. Does the U.S. want to put boots on the ground? This war is very, very unpopular in my country. Maybe a quarter of the public supports it. A big part of Trump's own MAGA base is appalled by it. You look at the comments by Tucker Carlson, who says it's absolutely disgusting and evil. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls the Trump regime sick fucking liars. You know, you've got this opposition from the MAGA base. So is Trump going to put boots on the ground? He thinks he can do anything. That's what's so dangerous about this. Trump thinks he's the ruler of the universe and he can use force. His main advisor is Stephen Miller, who says this is a law of the jungle. Might makes right. Use force, whatever you want.
Right.
And now we're getting these reports from the Military Religious Freedom Foundation that the commanders in more than 30 U.S. bases are making this a Christian end times war, which is Pete Hegseth's worldview. Pete Hegseth's body, half of his body is covered with Christian extremist tattoos, and they're spreading that ideology. And the soldiers are sending in these reports that they're terrified because they're filled with visions of bloody conquest and bloody battles, and they're saying that Trump is Jesus's anointed choice to rule the world until it ends, and it's going to end soon. And so when I think of this, Trump has broken every taboo except one. He's broken every law, international law, domestic law, kidnapping leaders, shooting people without authorization, sending troops in the streets. The only taboo he hasn't broken so far is the nuclear taboo.
Right.
I'm terrified as a director of the Nuclear Studies Institute and somebody who writes about nuclear issues all the time.
Right.
I'm terrified that Trump wants to break that taboo also, not because it's needed militarily, but to show that he can.
No, in this case, so far Trump has not put, yes, there are body bags that have gone, but not the likes, not to the counts of like in Afghanistan, Vietnam, or even with Iraq. In this case, again, it's all largely been standoff warfare. It's about using all the reserves somewhere to say, perhaps let's try and recharge and replenish and start the military-industrial complex and reboot it again so that they can start manufacturing fresh. And he wants money for it. Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma, quickly, your thoughts, sir, your assessment, taking down this regime, is it as easy as it looks like? Are we in for the long haul? If you were to go by what Benny Stans said, we have to take it week after week. So clearly they're saying more than 2 to 3 weeks. That's what it's saying. We're only in day 6 is what he said. So how do you see this?
Thank you, Alan, for having me here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your patience.
So the first thing is that I'll go a little back, and I would say that only if they would have created an alliance of willing, then we would not have seen the kind of market volatility on the crude oil that we are seeing today. India would suffer, and therefore I'm advocating that. Now let's come to the regime change. The first thing is that in case of disagreement, do you really go and change the regime of a country? So that's the first question to be answered.
Right.
Second one, even if you go for regime change in Iran, which is the current regime, is very well established there. So what at the moment has been done is that the supreme leader, the former supreme leader, has been knocked off.
Right.
So, but he will be replaced by someone else. So regime remains intact. Personalities will change.
Yeah.
How long are we going to see knocking off of the supreme leaders one after the other of Iran in order to reach a situation where there will be a more pliable head of state in Iran who will be able to support all the thesis that's there for this war.
No, unless there is a street uprising and a total overthrow that happens, that's not going to happen. But the street uprising happened in January. The attacks are happening in March. So what's going to happen in end of March or April, nobody knows, because nobody seems to have clarity, or maybe because we don't know what they're thinking in the war room and they may have an end game. But if Trump and his entire team keep shifting goalposts every day, then we are confused. The Israelis at least are very clear what they want out of this. That one gets the sense of that. But beyond a certain point, they will also not be effective if the Americans back off. Now, this also brings us to the IRGC's defense capabilities. Tom Cooper was talking about it. It's a multi-layered defense structure, just walking across. It's a multi-layered defense structure with the IRGC at the tip of the spear, viewers. IRGC has spearheaded domination in Lebanon via the Hezbollah. So it also has a lot of its proxies which are brought into operation. So it's got the Hezbollah there in Lebanon. Then IRGC also operates via the Al-Shabi proxy group in Iraq. You also then have the Quds force that carries out covert operations for regional dominations. Then you have Fatamiyam and also Zanabiyon brigades that recruit Shia of Afghanistan and Pakistan. One of those guys has actually claimed in a US court that he was hired and he was tasked with assassinating Trump. Fatamiyam and Zanabiyon brigades held sway in Syrian war under the Assad regime. IRGC also has naval unit to monitor the west of the Strait of Hormuz, and that's what the Trump military has been trying to really do away with. IRGC operates an arsenal of 100,000 to 150,000 Shahed drones. The Shahed drones used for multiple swarm strikes or stream strikes to overwhelm air defenses. And of course, the war zone has also shown the effective use of drones by the Iranian forces. We talked about it just inside the bunker with Tom Cooper, how the Shahed 136, the kamikaze drones, have wreaked havoc. Iran could disrupt the Strait of Hormuz with drones for months, and drone production capacity is around 10,000 drones per month. And drone attacks have penetrated air defenses of the Gulf states. The drone attacks swarm air defenses to target military and energy assets, and even in a stream fashion, when one targets, one sneaks through. Out of 10, even if 3 sneaks through, that's 150 kilogram of payload landing at one location. Iranian sea mines could also prolong disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. So many of these aspects, they know the low-cost, highly effective kind of warfare, Tom. Weigh in on this.
Especially mines, now that you've mentioned. There is always the option of Iranians, for example, the water is moving. And it is moving in and out of the Persian Gulf. So you let the floating mines out.
Right.
You can release them from the coast, and they are floating into the Persian Gulf.
Right.
Can easily create a mayhem inside the Persian Gulf.
No, today they've used a kamikaze boat.
Yes.
They've used a suicide boat against an oil tanker to breach through the hull levels, and that's also been recorded. So Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma, this is not going to be easy. For years and decades, the Israeli and the Americans have gathered intelligence around Iran. Would they have gamed this? Would they have known this?
For a mature country, they should have known this. They should have gamed this. They should have taken other friendly countries with them, so that they are able to, they should have been able to replenish their reserves, and economic impact would have been lessened. As far as the military tactics are concerned, that is Iran's backwaters, and therefore they would know the geography and seabed much better than anyone else. So I have no qualm in saying that even if the main war is over, we will see the aftershocks of the war in the world in the coming years.
True, and Tom was saying the same thing, Lieutenant General Dhillon, that they just need one ballistic missile every month, or 100 drones to be fired across multiple locations every month. They can manufacture 10,000 per day, and they are highly mobile. They already have a stock of 150,000 upwards. Have a look at this. This is what they've done in Bahrain, Tom and General Dhillon. General Dhillon, your thoughts? Say, look at this. A tall building, a big one, and clearly a commercial establishment. The drones have waded in and they've just landed on the building and blasted top to toe of this building. This is damage enough to create panic among the people and to shut that entire business district down. So they're going to hurt nations around them commercially every day. General Dhillon.
Absolutely, Anand. Anand, the war fighting stamina and the stomach to fight longer wars and attrition war, as also the war fighting experience, not only amongst the soldiers, also amongst the nations and its citizens, is a very important thing for a long-drawn war. The Gulf countries, other than probably Kuwait and of course Iraq, no other Gulf country has seen a prolonged war in this area, and no citizens have also seen such a crisis in the past. They have all been living a very, very cushy life, and good business, good opportunities, good international meetings, everything was there. Now this is something new to them. And every round fired, every missile hit, every drone hit in a commercial area, in a military installation or in a public place is going to create confusion and chaos. And like Mr. Tom Cooper was saying, and if they mine the Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, if they mine that, the world energy, not only the crude, also the LNG, the maximum LNG is flowing out of Persian Gulf. The crisis is going to hit, I am repeating it, the smaller countries who have little reserves.
Right.
And it's going to manifest in their case much faster. But one important point I would like to make, if you give me 30 seconds. All wars, Tom Cooper will agree with me, all wars are fought onto what is our end state or end game, as you are calling, how we are going to achieve the end state before we declare victory. And if the war is overseas, which in this case is, then the exit strategy is also part of the end state. That is, after we have achieved our goal or end state, how we are going to exit from here and in what condition we are going to leave the country where we fought the war.
Right.
It all starts with the political aim. It all starts with the political aim. From political aim goes out the military aim. From military aim comes the military strategy. From military strategy come the military operations in different domains. And that is how the end state will be achieved by these military operations. Now, if the political aim is changing every day, it started off with regime change, it came to denuclearization of Iran, then it changed to military and naval degradation, and then it came to we will fight forever. Now, with this, in last 100 hours, with this type of political aim shifting, how do you expect the militaries to cope up with this? How do you expect the military strategy, military aim and military operations to cope up with this? And end state and the exit strategy, no one is even talking about. So these are the issues which in the longer run, if the war gets into attrition phase, are going to hurt.
True. Tom Cooper, please weigh in, even as we put two visuals, viewers, two pictures. This is the 5th Fleet Communication Center in Bahrain that's been hit, and it's been hit hard. So the same drones have come here and also caused damage here, while they've also attacking commercial establishment and that building. Clearly something to do with American entities in this building which we didn't know about. Tom?
Specifically, this was a hotel where the Iranians suspected that the CIA or US higher military personnel is bedded. So that is why they have targeted this building. With multiple drones. But if you permit me,
please go ahead.
I would like to agree really with General Dhillon. This is, he has explained it so fantastically, precisely to the point. If you don't have strategy, your armed forces do not know what shall they do.
Right.
And then reaching back upon religion, which we have heard from professor of the University of. Sorry, which university was that?
Peter Christine,
if you then start with religion, which is actually forbidden in US armed forces, I mean, this is becoming a crusade. And what a crusade in the Middle East can cause, we have seen 10 years ago. I'm not particularly delighted to hear about such developments.
Professor Kuznik, is there an end game that you can see here?
Professor Kuznik, yes.
I think Israel has already achieved its end game, and that was to get the United States involved in this war. So from Netanyahu's perspective, he's gotten exactly what he wants. From the U.S. perspective, I don't know what the end game is. You look at it in terms of the numbers. You said that Iran is capable of producing 10,000 drones a month.
Yeah.
Reuters yesterday put that figure at 30,000 drones per month.
Right.
I'm not sure, maybe Tom knows, but I'm not sure which is more accurate. It costs about $25,000 per drone.
Yes.
The interceptors that the U.S. and Israel are using cost upwards of $1 million each. You look at the math of this, it makes no sense. It costs so much money, at least $60 million a day, to keep those American forces in the region. The American people already don't want to see this. It's clearly a war of choice. And the Americans have been lied into one war after another. This is another war that was predicated on flagrant lies. The idea that Iran's going to very quickly have an intercontinental ballistic missile that can hit the United States. The Defense Intelligence Agency said recently Iran is at least 10 years away from having a missile that could hit the United States. That Iran has reconstituted its nuclear program. The IAEA says there's no energy development going on there, and that they're not working toward a bomb. So the Americans see this. They see that they've been suckered into wars repeatedly. When the U.S. went to war against Iraq, Iraq is a country of 26 million people. Iran is a country of 93 million people. We were in Iraq for almost a decade. We're in Afghanistan for 2 decades. The American people don't want more of this, and even Trump's base doesn't want this, which is why this war, once the U.S. begins getting a bloody nose at all, then the appetite for this is going to shrink even further. So I see that the Iranians are positioned to hold out.
Right.
I'm not sure that Americans are.
Can see, they may be able to manufacture 20,000 drones per month, but that is only if their manufacturing facilities exist. Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma and General Dhillon, I'm just wondering, we have to credit the Americans. If they can engineer regime change via student protests in in our neighborhood, they would have really seen the cost and impact of doing this. And there cannot be no method to this madness. Outside of what Trump says, we had one of the guests this morning say, Trump is only saying what he is saying. He's not the one doing it. There is a team of people who are effecting this beyond the polity. They're military and who would have planned this out. Do you see that plan or you don't see that plan, irrespective of what politically Trump is saying, General Dhillon?
You gave an example of Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the regime change could happen because there was a very well-established opposition, BNP, under Begum Khaleda Zia. The rank and file, the cadre of that political party were existing at ground root level, at Kasbah level, at district level, at state level, and at the national level. And the student unrest was engineered and the support came from here. As also the support came from Pakistan and ISI, that radical support of Jamaat-e-Islami. All those things were a very hot mix. And there was the infrastructure and the hierarchy existing on ground of the BNP, which is non-existent in Iran. For the last 47 years, this regime has not allowed any, sort of an unrest or sort of any opposition voice or any infrastructure or any student leaders or any sort of a thing. So regime change without the boots on ground, without any structure existing of opposition, I don't see it happening.
But did they miss an opportunity? Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma, Bharat found itself in a bit of a pickle because there were questions being asked, where is the strategic autonomy? With the frigate also, there were questions that were asked, how could it happen within our sphere of influence? And we didn't know, we weren't the wiser. We did have the foreign secretary go and sign the book of condolence, and then the EAM speak to his counterpart in Iran. But how long can Bharat sit on the sidelines like the Chinese and say, let's talk peace, let's try and mediate, and because somewhere this is going to start hurting us at multiple levels, commercially, sociologically also, socially also. We have everybody in our midst. There are Shia, there are Jews, there are Parsis. All of them live together and cohabit in Bharat. But these can try and push the fault lines.
See, India at the moment is looking at its national interest, and national interest at the moment is being served by safeguarding its citizens in the Gulf region. It has also now expressed its condolences for the departed supreme leader of Iran. See, earlier there was some opposition in Iran, but once the supreme leader was taken out, even those opposition leaders have now come together in order to talk about safeguarding Iran. So the opposition which used to be there has already been disseminated by taking out the supreme leader. So I think at the moment the structures are not there, which General said very clearly, and also on the drones and the cost. See, ultimately, given the firepower of both the US and Israel, they will prevail. But that victory will come at such a high cost, not only for the region, but also for the whole world, that I don't know whether the world will be able to accept it.
Later tonight, early tomorrow morning at about 3 a.m. IST, Pete Hegseth is going to be holding a press conference. What would be the outline and what would be the outcomes? We'll have to wait and watch. Qatar is saying it has intercepted 13 Iranian missiles and one missile fell in the territorial waters of Qatar. Tom, they don't have an inexhaustive amount of defense systems. These nations in the Gulf, would they have gamed a 15-day war and 15 days of defending Iranian missiles?
Well, perhaps not them, but the expatriates that are running their armed forces, definitely so. United Arab Emirates armed forces are commanded by an Emirati officer, but he always has at least one or two foreign aides, most are from the United States. They certainly have, but obviously not to this extension, which is why, quite unsurprisingly, since yesterday there are reports that Qatar is using Patriot missiles manufactured in 2000, 2002, 2003. Patriot 2 missiles, not the latest Patriot 3 missiles, which it has acquired ever since. So now keep in mind, such missiles have a useful shelf life of 10 years. 10 years. After that, they are more dangerous for their operator than for the enemy. So now they are using 20 plus years old missiles, which are long expired, older variants, which are less precise, less sophisticated, and so on. This is not a good sign from my point of view, and it indicates at least that their stocks of Patriot 3 are exhausted, largely exhausted, and that the Americans do not have much more to supply in this regards.
I'm just going to bring in and just deviate a bit here in terms of the Strait of Hormuz. Do you believe, Sanjay ji, that Bharat is going to get into a bit of a flux here because of its energy needs? Qatar has stopped LNG supply. There is no fuel coming. We have our own tankers full of food which are exported towards these Gulf regions and these Gulf nations, food, meat, etc. We have our own seafarers who are stuck there. How long can Bharat hold out here?
So one data which has been released was that we have a reserve for up to 25 days for India's consumption. So obviously we'll be looking at diversification, and our obvious diversification choice will be to go and buy more crude and other energy needs from Russia. So therefore, I'm not sure whether talks have already started, but I think Russia will be the mainstay for India's energy needs till the time the situation is sorted out around the Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz.
Right. Now, these are the numbers that we have. Indian flag ships that are stranded are 37. Indian seafarers struck are 23,000. That's the number. This is a disruption that is going to jolt Bharat at multiple levels, viewers. Let's look at some of the other numbers also that we have at the Strait of Hormuz. Again, crude oil imports are $75 to $80 billion. That is Bharat's economic exposure in this region, from this region. The total LNG imports itself are $6 to $7 billion. We also have the LPG imports of $8 to $10 billion, again coming from this region. Exports to the Gulf region are $50 to $60 billion across all the countries. Now, all of this is going to get choked, and this is going to bring a certain level of economic hardship. I'm just going to check if there are more numbers, but these numbers themselves are humongous. I'm also going to check if we can just quickly put the cost of this war so far that is happening. We'll try and call that also. But Tom, when something like this happens, even for a nation like India, there are other nations that are suffering too. Bangladesh will suffer, Nepal will suffer, all of South Asia will suffer, China will be suffering. How long can this continue and how long can they hold out here?
I have no idea. I'm just wondering how can anybody. We have a short while ago, we have had interview with former Israeli foreign minister or deputy foreign minister, and he says everybody for himself. And in the third sentence after, he explains and points out how India has signed a number of deals with Israel. So how does he expect India to pay for these deals, to realize them, if its economy is badly damaged by this brawl in Iran?
Now, look at the daily cost, the estimated daily cost, if we can just call this again. Daily cost per oil tanker is about $315,000 to $450,000. And then the cost for operating cost for large tankers is $50,000 to $200,000. The LNG tanker freight cost is about $200,000 per day, $20,000 per day, LNG tankers. And the estimated capital cost impact is per ship is $300,000 to about $450,000 per day.
This is only functioning and paying off if it's moving. If it stands, they are killing the owners.
They're killing. So who's going to pay for this? And somewhere this is going to come back and hurt Bharat's constituency, Ambassador Verma. How are we going to be able to answer this and take this load? And how long?
See, we are suffering. We have already started our suffering. The only option open to us is to go back to those parties who are warring at the moment and tell them to relax the conditions so that we are able to get our energy needs from our traditional exporters. Till the time that doesn't happen, I'm sorry, but we will be suffering, not only us, the Southeast Asia, Japan, China, South Asia, all the countries that you mentioned.
Right. So this is bringing economic hardship. So how will there be any support for this regime change and for greater stability, etc., General Dillon? At some point, these nations will say, stop this.
Absolutely. The point which I started with. These hardships to the world would cause people to come and say, stop this. And Ambassador very clearly brought it out now. And the point which you asked earlier, this will, if it continues, and I'm again repeating, it is going to get into attrition warfare. Attrition warfare is when the country which is fighting a guerrilla warfare, they use the low-cost option and they prolong the war and they tire out the enemy with the sophistication and technically superior weaponry. So this is where the attrition warfare will lead to, and more the attrition warfare, more closer of Strait of Hormuz, the world will suffer. Not only India, the world will suffer. And I just want to make a point here, you made a passing reference to it. People are questioning what is India's stand.
Right.
4 years ago, when Russian-Ukraine war started, on a similar TV interaction, I was asked by someone, where does India stand in Russia-Ukraine war?
Right.
Where does India stand? My reply at that time was, India stands on its 2 feet.
Right.
And even today in the USA-Israel-Iran war, India stands on its 2 feet. We are very clear about our foreign policy. We are very clear about our national interests in the long run. So our government's policy and foreign policy and national interests are prime, and our welfare of our citizens is prime. Opposition will keep speaking, people will keep questioning. But the governments do not flinch or don't act on emotions and sentiments.
Right. I'm going
foreign
to check.
Policy is based on long-term interests of the nations.
Sir, foreign policy is based on long-term interests of the nation, and Bharat has to look for what works for it. Every nation has to fend for itself at the end of the day. I agree with that. But there is also this whole controversy around this frigate, the Iranian frigate that was, that came to Bharat on Bharat's invitation for Milan 2026. On its way back in waters which are supposed to be our sphere of influence, it's taken out by the Americans. Now, how can an American, if an Indian submarine were to take out a group of smugglers or a frigate or a Pakistani frigate somewhere in the Atlantic, Do you think the Americans will take kindly to that? How is it that we have not raised objection to how could the Americans do this in our sphere of influence when we have repeatedly said this is the Indian Ocean region belongs to Bharat. We will patrol this.
Is that a question for me?
Yes, General Dhillon.
Yeah. Anand, see, wars are, again, I'll say, wars are not fought on emotions and sentiments. Wars are fought on the rules of engagement. And for the benefit of the viewers, because the panel here is very well informed, I would just like to bring out one or two definitions. One is the territorial waters. Territorial waters extend 12 nautical miles, approximately 22 kilometers from the coast of the nation, of the country.
Right.
Everything in that water is considered as extension of the land, and the law of the land applies there.
Right.
Then is a EEZ,
Correct.
EEZ for some.
Correct.
That is around 200 nautical miles.
Correct.
In that area, the country where the 200 nautical miles is taken from can exploit, explore, conserve, and manage natural resources like fishing, oil, gas, wind, at the water surface, under the water surface, on the sea surface, and below the sea surface.
Right.
It does not have the right to do anything more than this. Every country of the world has a freedom of navigation in the economic EEZ and also in the territorial waters. Now, as there's something called UNCLOS, UNCLOS, United Nations, this thing of law on sea, of Convention on Law on Sea. Now, that every country has their own way and signatories are there. Like, for example, Indian territorial waters. We have a convention that submarines will have to come on the water surface and move.
Right.
And if they have the freedom of navigation. But in the EEZ, anyone can move freely the way they want it. Only economic activity is not allowed by the countries. Now coming specifically to this incident of this frigate.
Yeah.
IRIS Dana. Now this was 40 nautical miles south of the shore of Gal in Sri Lanka. It was not in Sri Lankan territorial water, it was in Sri Lanka's EEZ. It was not in Indian territorial waters, it was not in Indian EEZ. It was 40 nautical miles from Gaul and 230 nautical miles from Kanyakumari, out of our EEZ also. And as per the International Shipping Convention, anyone can do anything in the high seas and international waters. And when two countries are at war, technically, legally, and as per the conventions, America was well within their right to knock off that ship. The only thing which they did not do as per convention was, after having hit that ship, they did not go for the rescue of the besieged, the injured, and the wounded, and the bodies to be retrieved. That is a convention. After having hit, they are supposed to be. The call came to Sri Lanka. Now there is another convention. I'll just amplify this. Call came to Sri Lankan Navy. Sri Lankan Navy reacted.
Right.
All over the world, the seas are divided into various parts, where various people will react to any emergency or a situation like this. And Sri Lankan Navy, when they received this distress call, they thought it is well within their capabilities to address it. Either from the distance point of view, or for the time point of view, or from the night point of view. So India, we can say we are a net security provider, may it be humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and any other thing. But if a ship has left our coast, it has left our territorial water, it has left our EEZ, and it's on its way back home, it has not asked for protection or escort.
Right.
How do we provide